So recently Marcel sent me a copy of this game, Orange Shall Overcome, about the Dutch resistance in the Second World War, and I'm really pleased to review it. I'm going to do it in stages. This is going to be the unboxing video. I'm going to do that one first, and then what I'm going to do is build on it to actually do a few playthroughs. Now, Marcel is currently arranging a Kickstarter for a new edition of this, and I'll be fascinated to see where that goes. But let's start with looking at the current edition. So when we look at that, that is such an atmospheric picture to me. You've got so many little things. The fact you actually have a police officer helping in the search. You have the OZO, which was the equivalent of the well-known V for victory that was often put up. That was the Dutch. I'm not even going to try and attempt to pronounce it. My Dutch is not a strong point. So let's have a look. We've got the box itself. It's not exactly a lightweight box. It does show the back of it there, and it talks about it being for 14 plus, 1 to 5 players playing in 90 to 180 minutes. So it's a pretty substantial looking game. The fact it's capable of being played by 1 player I think is really nice. It's a cooperative game, so everybody's going to be working together. So let's open it up and have a look. So let's take the pieces out as we go. So we have the board. Very, very, word I want, evocative, I think is the word I want, board. Let's spin that around so it's the right way up. You've got countryside locations, you've got town locations, and you can straight away you start having to think, oh, I've got the bridges to cross, I've got to move around. There's a lot to that board. Reminds me of one of my old-time favourite games, which was Scotland Yard. I've always loved that, but this board is really nice. We have a second side to it as well, which I believe is the slightly easier side. You've still got all of the pieces around the edges and so on to organise everything, but you've got a slightly simpler board, I believe. So what else do we have? We have the rule book. Okay, nice glossy one. I like the fact it's right on the start. It says simplified play. It's set in the beginning of 1943, and this was the point when the Dutch resistance was having the most problems. It's very significant that Holland had a huge problem with where the Germans had infiltrated a lot of the resistance, and SOE were having an absolute nightmare. Pretty much every drop was going to the Germans, and a significant number of the things like the Sten guns and things that were used later in the war had come from this. So there's a little bit on the historical background there. It's really nice. You can see there, looking at what the components are. It's just nice, straightforward. How you set up the game. Key game elements, and it talks about all of those, and I will dig into more of that in a future video. We've got how to actually play the game, which breaks down to 2 parts, daytime and nighttime. It talks through all the different actions that you can do and examples of how this all works. That's the daytime. Then we have the nighttime section. How to end the game. Different solo modes, and I think that's a really nice touch. I like solo games. So it talks about how you need to modify it. and different options. You can have a different resistance group working with you, or you can have helpers working with you, or you can play multiple characters. You've got the simplified play rules, how to vary the scenarios, because there's not just one scenario in this. The commemoration and special thanks, and the information on the 10 different characters, all of whom are significantly different. And Marcel is a historian, and it shows. These actually are based on real people, some of whom are still alive. And what they show is the different things they were bringing to the organisation. They're very varied characters. You have one based on his grandmother. You have a really good understanding. Some of them are very interesting. You have one who is actually, for example, a rail worker. So he gives you advantages with travel. Each one's got those specialist abilities. And I think that is a major plus to the game. And then a nice little rules summary on the back. So that's quite nice. I think that was quite good. So then we come to the card stock, and there's lots of card. And it's also a very, very nice, thick card. So you've got a variety of things. You have the actual characters' cards, and they're two-sided. They've got, in fact, we'll take one out, then it's a bit easier to see. We have a standard side, but when you flip it over, you also have an easy side designed to make your life a bit easier. So you have two different difficulty levels. These all pop out and give us space for a marker to put in. As you can see, they're nicely enough little detailed cards. They're based on, like this bit, sort of identity documents of the time. You then get the cards for the different locations. So we've got the cafe. Okay, cafe is quite a useful one to have grabbed because people will remember a low, but also the secret army set in Belgium and how that went. That was a very impressive series, and you can see there's a piece that comes out again to help with tracking. And you've also got a side which is monochromed, faded out. That's used before the building is activated. And these, what they do, is they go onto the board. So your town or city is different in each game. You've got quite a few of those. You've got morale markers, which are used to basically generate extra actions. You've got various special cards. You've got tokens, and there are some. Each of the locations is significant because they do different things. You've got some police tokens, request tokens. That's just one of them. So let's have a look at another one. Yeah, again we've got another couple of identity cards, more locations, more morale tokens, lots of things there. We're still not done because we now have another one. Again with more player boards, more locations, more specialist items. It builds up. You then have the scenario cards. There's 5 scenarios come with the game. You have the first one, for example, talks about expanding the network. Tells you what your goal is, a special action that you can take during this scenario, the danger phase. Okay, in addition to the normal one, this also happens. The special rules for that. And then on the other side, you've got a bit of a briefing on the scenario, what your requirements are, how you place things, and again, a really clever idea. You can see down the edge there, we have 4 different difficulty levels. So we've got 5 scenarios with 4 different difficulty levels, plus of course you can vary it by having standard or easy cards. There's a lot of variation in this. We then come on to the actual sort of physical components, and a real bonus mark I think here, All of the material they're packed in is 100% compostable, always good. So what do we have in here? In this one, we've got a little box to keep things in and another bag. We then have, just open that up there, the first player token. Really nice. I mean, that is, they didn't need that. Could have been a card, but I think that's just really nice and very thematic. It's worth noting as well, the dice are orange. Yeah, orange is obviously the Dutch colour. You've then got the player tokens and the various things for tracking. That's all in that one. We've then got 4 decks of cards, and of course that's going to increase the replayability of the game, is the sheer number of cards with this. Marcel, bless him, even sent me extra cards, which I haven't included for this review, but you actually have the characters. So you have the details of the character, tells them what they are, where they start, what their identity is, and on the back it gives you that the biographical information. You're playing real people, and I think that possibly makes the game hit home for me. So you've got the 10 different characters. We've then got various cards. These are the actions that they can take. Each character takes their own action. I've got their own action cards listed at the bottom. So let's use the top one. Let's talk it through. So we've got Anda Kirkhoven. I apologise if I get that wrong. 23-year-old female student, starts with the Forger. So what does it tell us about her? Well, it gives her real name, what she's known as. Asian appearance led to discrimination, morally against vivisection, which was common in medical schools at the time. However, the town she moved to from the Dutch East Indies, she could hardly study medicine without it. She was also a vegetarian, devout pacifist, strongly focused all that's good in humans. A famous quote from her pacifist beliefs: "No tyrant will be able to compel me to obey him, nor to commit moral suicide by using methods of struggle that I abhor against him or his slaves." So the group she was with was focused on pacifistic resistance. They mainly forged identity and ration papers, but also helped people in hiding at the end of the war with money and a place to stay. She was an important courier for the gang, and she delivered documents and rations, as well as self-written pamphlets. She usually gave half of her ration papers to others. She was captured at the end of 1944 with her group and killed in March 1945, just before the end of the war. Even though she was heavily tortured for almost 3 months, she never gave information about her group and still believed in the good of people. It's quite thought-provoking to read these. So she has 3 cards. So she has forged papers, which let her move, and also when you can resolve the effect, you obviously use 2 items, but you gain forged papers. So you basically using resources, or you're becoming more exposed, depending on what the actions are. But in this case, she gains the papers, and if I do that at the Forger location, we don't lose the safety. So she gains that card, and these are the 3 actions she can play each turn. So the next one, deliveries. She could move, or if you've got at least, you could, what's that? I can't quite remember what all the icons are yet. I haven't played it through. As you can see, I'm still unboxing it. But she gets 1 to 3 move, but if she gives at least 1 resource, or an Ausweis card, I'll explain those in a minute, during the movement to another character, then morale improves. And her 3rd card is move, or again, you lose some alibi, you gain or lose items, and she gains movement as well. So those are her cards. Each person has their own set of cards, which you basically use each turn. So you can see there's quite a few of them. We've got other cards as well. You get a special cards. This one, similar to that, but put it next to the player board, and gained resources are placed here on the safe card before new resources are placed on the player board. Special rules for some. You get then these patrol cards where the patrols start moving around. You can see the different colours. You also then get the actual raid cards when they actually move into a location. So again, the artwork is very, very impressive. Deported. I mean, it probably doesn't take a genius to work out what's happening there. Surrounded, unsafe residence, intense activity, bad for morale, wider search, and the numbers tell you how effective the search is. You've then got more raid cards. That one's a different colour. Place this next to the raided location, so that's done slightly differently. So you can see they've all got different rules. And then you've got, when you look at these, group 1 resources needed, you've got basic and you've got challenging, so you've got all of those cards. That's just the first deck of cards. Let's look at the second deck of cards. One day I'm going to think to actually open things up before I get to this point. I'm quite excited to see some of these because it is an unboxing video. I haven't seen them myself yet. You can see there, look, I'm actually opening the packet. And again, compostable packaging. Really nice idea. And the artwork, I think, is very impressive. I do like this. So we have tickets. Okay, they look nice and simple. But, as you can imagine, travelling by public transport isn't always going to be a good option, and you actually have things happen when you do it. A safe ride, friend gets questioned, we're going to lose morale or alibi. So yeah, helper cards. Yeah, so these give you different helpers that can do things to help you, and the Ausweis cards. And these, useful information, you overhear officers talking, you're very believable, there's safe houses, lowered security, so you've got those cards. Let's have a look at the next deck of cards. I did say this was definitely a very full game, and as you can imagine, having all these different cards and different ones are going to come into play, they're going to have different effects. What's the end result? Very different game. So what we've got with this one, safe calls, spreading news. So you've got various things that you need to do. You've got summary cards by the look of it. Yep, so they're basic little reference cards, one per player. And again, look at the themed artwork. It's not afraid to admit as well that you have policemen involved with this. Now these are when you hit checkpoints. And what you do, there is a part that's read out to you, and you then have to make a decision. And the decision affects what's going on, and also who's stopped you, whether it's a police officer or whether it's a soldier. So I'll pick one at random. Okay, so wild goose chase. You're at a checkpoint with guards from another area. They ask if you've been travelling much lately, and you answer that you have, as the questions seemed harmless. You're then asked where you think the resistance is likely to be most active in the coming weeks, as they suspect you might know something from travelling so much. If you give them something that they can give to their superiors, they will let you go. So you may say in the city or in the countryside, which do you suggest? And then what it does, it tells you what the effect is. And I'm not going to go through that to hide it. But there are things where you may get somebody come up to you seeking help. Do you turn them in to divert suspicion from yourself, or do you make the decision to save them? It's not going to be a simple game. And then we come to the last deck of cards. You can see the sheer number of components in this game. So we've got captured on camera, so what our tasks are, befriending the enemy, we've got all those. We get the officer cards. Now these are not good news. Things like wide searches, flee, just in time, so you have those. You've then got occupier cards, I'll look at those in a second. Group 2, local support, so you've got the other groups. And you get the occupier cards. Now these, if you notice, have got 2 types, level 1 and level 2. And these are when you basically run into them. You can see you've got an officer for level 2. I mean, looking at the illustration, the uniform seems correct. I can't see anything jumping out as obviously wrong with it. And you can see you've got the different colour backings meaning different things. So you've got a suspicious meeting, where to go, move quickly, misinforming occupation, known associate, getting closer, turn over every stone, active searches. These are going to really start putting the cat among the pigeons. That's a lot of components, it's a lot of cards, it looks quite an intimidating game, but not all will be used all the time. It's one of those games. I haven't looked through the rules, and I think it seems to be very good at capturing the atmosphere of Holland in 1943. I really am looking forward to setting this up and having a game. But from the unboxing, my first thought is, wow, this is an impressive looking game. It's not a game I think I would want to play with my grandkids at the minute. I think they're a little bit young for that. But the fact it's playing solo is nice. And this is a very clever mechanism, which I'll talk more about sort of this in a future video. But there's a very clever mechanism where you know a bad thing's going to happen, but you can't communicate it to the other player. So you might know an area is going to be raided, and you can't say anything. You can't pass that information on, and that occurs at the end of your action rounds. So there is, I think I'm going to miss a little bit of that playing it solo, but it's a beautifully done game. The artwork is stunning. It's very atmospheric for the time. So I'll be back shortly once I've got a few games in, and I'll give a bit more in depth, but from an unboxing it's looking fantastic. See you soon.